The snow would take them both tonight. The wind howled like a crying ghost. Snow fell hard from the dark sky, covering everything in white. A thin alien woman held her child tightly against her chest. Her arms were shaking. Her skin was pale blue, dry and cracked from cold. Her legs could barely move anymore. She had walked for hours, maybe days, with no food, no shelter, and no hope. Her child, small and weak, didn't speak anymore. His eyes were closed, his breathing was soft, too soft. She fell to her knees in the snow and whispered, "Please don't sleep, stay with me." But the boy didn't move. His body was cold. His lips were turning purple. The mother looked up at the white sky and blinked back frozen tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Mama tried. I tried." She pulled him close and began to sing. The lullaby was soft and slow. It was the song of her people, a song sung by mothers before sleep. But tonight, it was her goodbye. She rocked gently, humming through the cold wind. Snowflakes landed on the child's face. Her voice broke, but she kept singing. If this was the end, she wanted his last memory to be her love. She didn't see the figure in the distance. She didn't hear the crunch of boots on snow, coming closer. But someone was walking toward her, a man, human, alone. He had no armor, no weapons drawn, just a thick coat, gloves, and tired eyes. He was walking home from his hunting trip when he saw the strange shapes in the snow. At first, he thought it was an animal. Then he saw the mother's arms wrapped around the small child. He moved faster. She heard him. Her body tensed. She pulled the child closer and looked up. Her eyes were wild with fear. She opened her mouth and hissed, a sharp warning sound from her throat. The man stopped. He held up his hands to show he had no weapon in them. "Hey, I'm not here to hurt you," he said calmly. The mother bared her teeth, but she was too tired to fight. The man knelt slowly, keeping his distance. "Your kid, he's not breathing right," he said, looking at the boy's still chest. She growled low, her voice weak. He reached into his coat and pulled out a heat pack. He held it up, showing it clearly, then gently tossed it closer to her. She looked at the small pack. It steamed lightly in the snow. She didn't understand the words, but she understood warmth. Carefully, she grabbed the pack and pressed it to her child's chest. A minute passed. The boy twitched, then coughed. Her heart jumped. She looked at the human again, confused. "Your boy's still alive," the man said, "but not for long if you stay out here." She didn't move. "Come with me," he said. "There's a cabin, just a few minutes away. Warmth, food." She didn't trust him. Why would she? But her child moved weakly in her arms again. And she knew the snow would take them both tonight if she didn't move. She stood up slowly. She didn't speak. She just nodded once. The man turned and began walking. She followed, holding the child close. Each step hurt. She could barely feel her toes, but she didn't stop. The human led them through trees and hills until a small wooden cabin appeared in the distance. Smoke came from the chimney. Light showed through the windows. Home. He opened the door and stepped aside. She hesitated, then walked in. Warm air hit her face for the first time in days. She fell to her knees again, this time from shock. The man quickly shut the door behind them. He rushed to grab blankets and gently took the boy from her arms. She almost screamed, but then saw him wrap the child carefully, placing him near the fire. He wasn't hurting him. He was helping. The fire. Man handed her a blanket too. She stared at it, unsure. Then slowly she pulled it over her shoulders. The fire crackled. The snowstorm outside howled, but inside, for the first time in forever, it was warm. She looked at the human. He wasn't looking at her with fear or hate, just quiet concern. He offered her a cup of warm broth. She took it with shaking hands. No words were spoken, but something had changed, forever. The warmth of the cabin was strange to her. Her body didn't trust it. Her skin twitched, expecting pain. Her arms held her child tight, even though he was already lying in thick blankets beside the fire. She sat curled in the corner, far from the human, her eyes fixed on him like a wild animal. The human man, tired eyes, rough beard, strong hands, moved slowly. Everything he did with care. He didn't look scared of her. He didn't try to touch her. He only checked the child again. He's cold, but he'll make it, he muttered, pressing the heating pack to the boy's chest. He just needs time. The mother didn't understand his words, but she understood his hands. Gentle, focused, not trying to steal or harm. Still, she hissed when he reached again, a low warning sound from deep in her throat. The man paused, then backed away with his palms up. Okay, I get it. Protective mama. You're doing your job. She didn't blink. She didn't lower her guard. The child, still weak, let out a shallow breath. It sounded like a whisper. His fingers moved slightly under the blanket. The mother's heart beat faster. She leaned down and brushed his cheek, her claws trembling. My little one. You're still here, she whispered in her language. Tear slid from her eye, then quickly froze on her cheek. The human watched silently. He moved to the stove and began preparing something warm. The small cabin smelled of herbs and broth within minutes. She smelled it too, and her stomach made a sound. She ignored it. He returned with a wooden bowl and slowly placed it on the floor between them, then stepped back, hands raised again. Eat. It's not poisoned, I promise. She looked at the food with suspicion. Steam rose from it. Her mind screamed trap, but her body remembered hunger. Real, painful, deep hunger, the kind that lived in her bones now. She crept forward slowly, eyes still on the human, and took the bowl. She sniffed it, then dipped one claw in and tasted it. Her eyes widened, warm, soft, not poison. She began to eat quickly, no grace, no shame. Just survival. The human didn't laugh or stare. He just smiled slightly and nodded. Good. After a few bites, she paused and whispered something to her child. She placed a spoon near his mouth. His lips didn't move. She froze. She leaned closer. Still nothing. Breathe. Breathe, she said, gently shaking him. Please. But he didn't respond. Her eyes went wide with fear. She growled and looked toward the human. Her claws extended. Panic hit her like lightning. The human understood. He rushed over. She tried to stop him, pushed him back, screamed, but he pointed at the boy. Let me help, she growled louder, then looked at her son, still, silent. She dropped her hands. The man knelt, pulled out a small scanner from his coat. The blue light moved over the boy's face and chest. He pressed 2 fingers to the boy's. Neck, no pulse, no. Not yet, the man whispered, dropping his pack and pulling out a thin metal rod. It unfolded fast. A small oxygen injector. He pressed it to the boy's neck and clicked it. A soft hiss. A pulse of green light. The boy twitched, then gasped. A weak, slow breath. The mother let out a cry, part joy, part shock. The human let out a breath too and whispered, Close one. She dropped to her knees and clutched her son. Her head rested on his chest. She listened to his heartbeat. It was there, faint, but real. She looked up at the human, her eyes full of something new, not trust yet, but no longer hate. The man sat back, wiping sweat from his brow. You're welcome, he said softly. She didn't understand the words, but she nodded. A long silence passed. The fire cracked. The boy coughed gently and shifted under the blankets. Then for the first time the mother pulled the blanket off her shoulders and gently placed it over the human's coat near the fire. A small gesture, but the meaning was clear. Thank you. The fire danced softly. The storm outside had not stopped, but the cabin was quiet. Safe. Still. The alien woman sat like a cornered animal. She had eaten. Her child was breathing again. But peace. Peace did not come. She stared at the wooden walls, the closed door, the man's slow footsteps. Every sound made her muscles tighten. Every creak of the floor, every wind gust outside made her think, now. He will hurt me now. He was only waiting. Back on her planet, kindness was always a trick. First, they offer food, then warmth, then pain. The human, however, simply moved around the cabin. He was busy doing strange things, folding old cloths, stacking supplies, placing tools back into their boxes. He whistled softly as he worked, something soft and tuneless. The sound confused her. Was he happy or just pretending? She whispered something to her child, who now lay wrapped tightly near the fire. He was still pale, still weak, but he lived. That was all she had left. She checked the room for exits. Only one door, one window, no back way out. Her claws brushed her wrist, an old wound from a collar long ago. She clenched her jaw. If this man tried to chain her, she would make him bleed. The man finally stopped moving and looked at her. His eyes were calm, but alert. You're still on edge, he said. That's okay. He reached into a cupboard and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He sat at the table and unwrapped it slowly. She narrowed her eyes. A weapon? But no. It was food. More food. Dried fruit. Some kind of root. A flask of clean water. He pushed the bundle across the table, then stepped back and sat in a chair far away. I'll sleep over there, he said, pointing to the far corner. He picked up a rolled blanket, dropped it on the floor, and lay down with a quiet sigh. No chains, no threats, just how she didn't move, not for hours. Even when the wind howled louder, even when the fire dimmed, even when her eyes stung with exhaustion, she sat still, watching, waiting. But the human man didn't get up again. He slept. Not deeply, not fully, but enough to trust the space around him. That was his mistake. Or maybe not a mistake at all. Sometime in the dark hours of the night, the child stirred. The mother rushed over. His eyes opened a little. His lips moved. She leaned close. He whispered, one word, warm. She nearly cried. She kissed his forehead and looked back toward the human. Still asleep. Still breathing slowly. She turned toward the food on the table. Her hands moved fast. She took the dried fruit, split it in half, and placed the smaller part into her child's mouth. He chewed slowly. She took the other piece. It was sweet. Too sweet, too strange. Not from her world, but good. She finished it and returned to her son. She did not thank the human, but in her heart, a small door began to open. Maybe, just maybe, he was not like the others. Morning came. Gray light filtered through the window. The human sat up, yawned, and looked around. The mother was still beside the fire, holding her son. She looked more awake now, still guarded, but no longer shaking. He smiled lightly. Still here, that's good. He walked to the stove and poured hot water into 2 cups. He placed one near her and sat on the floor again. Still no threat. Still no trap. She looked at the cup, then back at him. He raised his own and took a sip. She copied him slowly. It was bitter, but warm. She lowered the cup and tilted her head. Why, help? She asked in broken words. The man paused. He looked at her. Really looked. He saw a woman who had been through hell, a mother who had nearly died in the snow for her son, And still she asked why. He gave a sad smile. Because no one should die cold and alone. She didn't reply, but her eyes stayed on him longer than before. She was no longer waiting for the trap. She was trying to understand the kindness. That alone was a beginning. The snow had stopped, but danger had not. From the hills beyond the forest, Silence walked on metal boots. Two shapes moved through the trees, tall, armored, and cold. Their faces were hidden behind black masks. One carried a tracking rod that pulsed red every few steps. The signal was growing stronger. "Her trail ends here," said the first voice, flat and emotionless. The second one nodded. "The child too?" The red light blinked. "Still alive. Barely." They looked at each other. "Orders were clear," one said. "No survivors, no witnesses." Then they marched forward, heading toward the human's cabin. Inside, the fire crackled, gently. The child was sleeping again, his chest rising and falling more steadily. The mother sat nearby, gently feeding him spoonfuls of soup. Her claws no longer shook. She had begun to trust the warmth. But the human? He was staring out the window. Something wasn't right. His breath slowed. His soldier instincts, long buried, returned like a shadow behind his thoughts. He placed his mug down and stood. The mother noticed. Her body tensed. He didn't speak. He walked to a shelf and opened an old metal box. Inside, a short rifle, a worn blaster, 2 power cells, and a folded scarf with a military crest. He loaded the rifle with quiet hands. "What's wrong?" she asked softly, her voice still unsure in English. The man didn't answer right away. He opened the door and looked. Out, only trees and snow. But the silence felt wrong. "Are they coming?" she asked. He nodded once. "Yes." Her eyes widened. "They tracked us?" He looked at her. "They're not your kind, are they?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not anymore." She stood, heart racing. "We should run." He didn't move. "We won't make it. The IE. Snow's too deep. The boy's too weak." She clenched her fists. "Then what?" He looked around the cabin, his cabin, and took a deep breath. "We make them regret coming." The mother held her child close while the man moved fast, locking windows, boarding the door, setting small traps. He poured oil across the front path, hit a sharp blade near the woodpile, and wired an old generator to spark on touch. She watched him, amazed. "Why?" she asked. "Why protect us?" He paused, then looked at the child. "I've lost people before," he said simply. "Not again." She didn't speak, but something in her chest shifted. This man, this human, was risking everything for them, and he didn't even know her name. She turned to her child and whispered in their native tongue, "We are not alone anymore." An hour later, the trees moved. Crunch, crunch. The human crouched near the front window. The rifle was in his hand. 2 shadows appeared near the clearing. Black armor, red visors, weapons drawn. "They found us," he said quietly. The mother looked down at her child, still asleep, unaware of the danger creeping closer. She stood. "Up, I'll fight too," she said. He turned to her, surprised. "You can't." She held up her claws, eyes hard. "I can. For him." He nodded. "Then stay low. Protect the boy." She grabbed a sharp blade from the table and moved to the back wall. The door creaked. Then boom! The first hunter stepped on a trap and went flying backward into the snow. The second ducked and fired. The cabin wall cracked with heat. The man moved fast, firing back through the small window. His shot hit the second hunter's leg. Sparks flew. The enemy shouted something in a language neither of them knew. The woman stayed close to her child, whispering, "Don't wake up. Don't wake up." Outside, smoke rose from the trees. The wounded hunter crawled to cover. The first one, still stunned, stood again and ran toward the cabin. The man inside switched weapons and fired again. Missing this time, the hunter threw something. A grenade! Down! The man shouted, jumping over the mother and child. Boom! The wall cracked. Flames licked the wood. The mother cried out and covered her son. The man, bleeding from his arm, stood again. The second hunter was now inside. Big, fast, deadly. The woman screamed and threw her blade. It bounced off his armor. He raised his weapon at her, but the human tackled him from the side. Gunfire burst. Wood shattered. The hunter fell, dead. The second one, injured and afraid, ran back into the trees. Silence returned. The fire was dying. So was the man's strength. He dropped the rifle and sank to his knees. Blood stained his sleeve. The mother rushed to him, placing her hands on his shoulder. "You're hurt?" He smiled weakly. "I've had worse." The child whimpered behind her, awake. She looked back. Her child's eyes were open and calm. He had survived again, because of the human. The mother knelt beside the man. She touched her forehead to his. "Thank you," she whispered. This time she meant it. Smoke still floated in the cold air. Inside the half-burned cabin, the human wrapped his injured arm with strips of old cloth. His blood had stopped flowing, but his face was pale. He hadn't slept since the attack. The alien mother sat nearby, her son in her lap. The child was warm now, eating soft food slowly, but the mother, her mind was not calm. She kept looking at the broken walls, at the shattered window, at the blood-stained snow outside. This place was no longer safe, and this human, he had already done too much. She stood quietly, placing the child on the fur-covered bed. Then she moved to the door. The man looked up. "Where are you going?" She didn't answer. She opened the door slowly, her hand still trembling. "Stop," he said. She stepped outside. That's when he stood up fast, despite the pain, and blocked her path. "Where are you going?" He repeated, this time louder. She turned her face away. "They'll come back, others, stronger ones." He narrowed his eyes. "So?" She looked at him now. Her voice broke. "You don't understand. You saved us. That's enough. If we stay, you die." He stepped closer, jaw tight. "If you go, you all die," he said. "You think they'll stop chasing you out there?" She shook her head. "Maybe. Maybe not. But I won't bring more death to your door." Her words were soft, but full of fear. The man didn't move. "I know your kind don't trust easily," he said. "But I made a choice." He pointed to the sleeping child inside. "I didn't save him to watch him freeze again out there." She blinked. Her throat tightened. "I know how to fight," he continued. "I know how to hide. I know how to build a new shelter. But I won't do it without you." She whispered. "Why?" I'm not one of yours." "No," he said, then pointed to her chest. "But he is." She looked down at her boy, small, innocent, alive, because of this man. "I don't want to run anymore," the human said. "So if you do, fine. But I'm taking him with me." Her eyes went wide. "No," he nodded slowly. "Then stay." Her knees gave out. She sank into the snow. She was tired. So tired. Of running, of fear, of watching every shadow. A tear rolled down her cheek. She looked up at him. "I don't know how to stop running." He crouched next to her and said gently, "Then let's learn together." They worked through the morning. Together. The cabin was badly damaged but still standing. The man gathered tools and wood while the woman cleaned blood and soot from inside. She didn't speak much, but she watched him now, not with fear but with quiet curiosity. He was careful with every repair. He explained things as he worked, even though she barely understood the words. She began to mimic his actions, holding boards, hammering gently, soaking cloths to stop the smoke. When the child woke again, he looked around with sleepy eyes and said one word, "Home?" The mother froze. She turned to the man. He had heard it too. His smile was small but real. Yes, he said softly. It's starting to become one. Later that evening, the mother sat near the fire, brushing her child's long hair. The man sat on the other side, rechecking his arm wound. Finally she spoke. My name is Arla. He looked up, then nodded. I'm Davis. Davis, she repeated carefully. Thank you. He waved a hand. Stop saying thank you, just stay alive, she laughed, a quiet, unfamiliar sound from her throat. He looked surprised, then smiled. The child giggled too, and for the first time since the snow took everything from them, they laughed together. Not because things were easy, but because, for once, they didn't have to run. The snow returned that night. But it did not fall softly. It came with thunder and fire. Orla woke with a jolt. Her child clung to her chest, whimpering. A sound echoed in the trees outside, a deep humming like metal grinding against the wind. She looked toward Davis, already on his feet. His face was hard. His weapon was in his hands. They found us, he said. The cabin was dark. Cold wind crept in through the cracks they hadn't finished sealing. Outside, something big was moving. Orla peered through the broken window. A large black shape stood at the edge of the forest. It was not a soldier this time. It was a machine, tall as the trees. 4 metal legs, 2 arms with glowing red weapons. A hunter, mech sent by the ones who wanted her gone. They sent a tracker unit, Rilla whispered. I thought those were only for war. They just started one, Davis said. He turned to her. Take the boy. Go to the back tunnel. Hide. She shook her head. You can't fight that alone. He gave a tight smile. Watch me. The mech moved forward, scanning with red beams. Rala ran with her son through the hidden hatch Davis had built beneath the floorboards. She didn't want to leave, but she had to trust him now. And Davis, he had no plans to die quietly. He grabbed his last 2 charges from the shelf, homemade explosives, barely stable. He strapped one to a steel dart and loaded it into a launcher. The mech was 30 meters away. Its head turned, locking onto the cabin. It fired. Boom. The front wall exploded in flames. But Davis had already moved out the side window. He dropped low in the snow, rolled behind a tree, and fired the dart. Wham! The charge hit the mech's right leg. A flash of blue fire erupted. The mech stumbled. Davis ran, fired again, this time at the eye, a near miss. The mech roared, its speakers screeching in a language neither human nor alien. It swept its arm toward him, and missed. Davis jumped behind a stone ridge, breathing fast. He was bleeding again. His shoulder had opened from the blast, but his eyes stayed sharp. The mech charged toward him, and that's exactly what he wanted. He led it through the woods, where he'd laid traps hours ago. The first one was a simple trip line, but Davis had wired it to a buried fuel tank. The mech stepped on it, K-boom. Flames lit the trees. The snow turned orange. Metal flew. Rala watched from behind the rocks, holding her child. She saw the fire and smoke, and screamed inside her heart. Was he dead? Did he fall? She wanted to run to him, but she had her child. She had to wait. Then, out of the smoke, Davis walked, burned, bleeding, covered in ash, but alive. Behind him, the mech was still moving, barely, crawling now. Sparks shot from its body. Its red lights blinked wildly. He raised his last weapon. Go to hell, he growled. He threw the second charge straight into the open cockpit. Boom. The entire machine lit up like the sun. This time, it didn't rise. Again. It burned. And then, it fell. Silence. Only wind. Only fire crackling. Then Arla ran from the rocks, her child in her arms. She found Davis kneeling in the snow, breathing hard. She dropped beside him. You're insane, she said, choking back tears. He smiled weakly. You're welcome. She pressed her forehead to his. You fought like a monster. He laughed once, then winced from the pain. I was a monster, Long time ago. Guess I still had it. The child looked up at him with wide eyes. You saved us. Davis looked at the boy. Yeah, I guess I did. He finally let himself fall into the snow, not dead, just tired, and for the first time, proud. Spring came quietly. The snow no longer ruled the land. Green slowly returned to the edges of the forest, and the wind carried warmth instead of fear. The cabin was different now. Rebuilt, repaired. Not perfect, but strong, and filled with life. Inside, the small alien boy sat near the window, drawing strange shapes on old paper with a broken pencil. He was humming, happy. His skin was no longer pale. His eyes were bright now. His mother, Rila, hung clothes near the fire, folding each piece with care. She had learned the rhythm of this place. The silence no longer scared her. And Davis? He sat on the steps outside, sipping weak tea, watching the trees. No enemies had come in weeks, no machines, no soldiers, just quiet peace. He still had pain in his shoulder. Some nights the old scars ached, but he didn't complain. He had something now he hadn't had in a long time. A reason to wake up, a reason to stay. That afternoon, the boy ran outside and tugged at Davis's coat. Show me again, he said. Excitedly, Davis looked down. What? The traps? The boy nodded. The wire trick. Davis stood smiling. All right. But just one trap, and you have to help me set it. I will, the boy said proudly. They walked to the edge of the trees. Arla watched them go, a strange warmth blooming in her chest. She had feared many things in her life, but never this. Never peace. Later, while the fire burned and a stew cooked gently in the pot, Rala sat beside Davis at the table. She spoke slowly, carefully. Her English had improved. You didn't ask for this life, she said. He looked up. No, but it found me anyway. You didn't have to fight for us. He stirred the stew with a spoon. Didn't I? She smiled slightly. Most would have walked away. I'm not most. He said it like a fact. She leaned forward. You've changed. So have you, he replied. They looked at each other. No fear, no masks, just understanding. Then, tiny footsteps pattered. Across the floor, the boy climbed into Davis's lap without asking and rested his head against the man's chest. Davis froze. The child looked up at him, blinking slowly. You're my father now, right? Rila gasped softly. The room went still. Davis looked down at the boy, unsure what to say. His mouth opened, but no words came. The boy held tighter. You saved us. You stayed. You fight monsters. Mama smiles now. So, you're my father. That's what it means. Davis's chest ached in a way no wound had ever caused. He swallowed hard, then gently placed a hand on the boy's back. Yeah, he whispered. I guess I am. Rilla covered her mouth. A tear slid down her cheek, but she didn't hide it. That night, the cabin held something new. Not just warmth, not just safety, but family. They didn't need papers or rules to define it. No titles, no blood. Just choice. The human had chosen them, and they had chosen him. As the stars blinked above and the forest stayed quiet, a little boy slept between his mother and his new father, and for once, no one had to run. No one had to fear the snow, because together, they had changed everything forever.